The living mulch revolution. 2 seeds that changed everything. Your garden soil is dying, and every bag of mulch you buy makes it worse. I know that sounds harsh, but after 30 years of gardening mistakes, I finally discovered why my back was constantly aching, my wallet was always empty, and my plants never looked as healthy as I wanted them to be. The solution? 2 humble seeds that transformed my entire approach to gardening. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why thousands of gardeners are ditching store-bought mulch forever. I'm William Scott, and this is Hidden Gardening Secrets, where we uncover the methods that nature intended, not what the garden centers want to sell you. Before we get into the details, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is all about sharing gardening wisdom that actually works, especially for those of us who want to work smarter, not harder. And if you're someone who's tired of the same old gardening advice, you're gonna love what we share here. So subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's grow together. Now, let's talk about why everything you know about mulch might be completely wrong.
Part 1. The hidden cost of store-bought mulch. Walk into any garden center during spring and you'll see mountains of mulch bags stacked high. Wood chips, shredded bark, cedar nuggets, cypress blend. They all promise the same thing: weed control, moisture retention, and a tidy-looking garden bed. Here's what they don't tell you. Traditional mulch is a temporary bandage on a permanent problem. Sure, it looks clean and neat when you first spread it across your beds. The rich brown color makes everything appear professional and well-maintained. But underneath that attractive surface, something troubling is happening. Wood-based mulches break down incredibly fast. Within 3 to 4 months, especially during hot and rainy seasons, they decompose into almost nothing. That beautiful layer you worked so hard to spread? Gone. Washed away, blown into corners, or broken down into dust. So you go back to the store, you buy more bags, you haul them home, you spread them again, and the cycle continues, season after season, year after year. The physical toll is real. Lifting 50-pound bags, hauling wheelbarrows across uneven ground, bending and spreading for hours. For those of us with aging joints and tired muscles, this routine becomes less of a gardening practice and more of a painful obligation. Then there's the financial burden. Quality mulch isn't cheap. When you calculate how much you spend annually on multiple applications, the numbers add up fast. Some gardeners spend hundreds of dollars each year just to keep their beds covered. But the real problem runs deeper than cost and labor. Certain types of mulch can actually harm your garden. Dyed mulch often contains chemicals that leach into your soil. Moldy mulch introduces harmful fungi that can attack plant roots. And when applied too thickly, any mulch can create a waterproof barrier that prevents rain from reaching the soil, essentially suffocating your plants while appearing to help them. Some organic alternatives seem promising at first. Grass clippings are free and readily available. Straw is lightweight and easy to spread. But both decompose so rapidly that you're constantly reapplying them, sometimes every few weeks. The pattern becomes exhausting. You're not gardening anymore. You're maintaining mulch. And all the while, nature is showing us a completely different approach. Walk into any wild forest or meadow. Notice how the ground is covered, protected, and thriving without a single bag of store-bought mulch. No one is out there spreading wood chips every spring. No one is hauling wheelbarrows through the trees. Yet the soil in these natural spaces is richer, darker, and more alive than most garden beds ever become. Why? Because nature uses living systems, not dead materials.
Part 2. How nature covers and feeds the earth. Stand quietly in a forest clearing after a spring rain. Look down at the ground beneath your feet. You'll notice layers of life: fallen leaves, small plants, patches of moss, bits of decomposing wood, all working together to protect and enrich the soil. The ground feels soft when you step on it, almost spongy. Press your hand against it and feel the moisture held within. Smell that deep, earthy scent that tells you something alive is happening just below the surface. This is nature's mulching system, and it's been perfecting itself for millions of years. No one maintains it. No one buys it in bags. No one spreads it in neat 3-inch layers. The forest simply creates its own protective covering through a continuous cycle of growth, death, and renewal. This is the concept we need to bring back into our home gardens. It's called living mulch, and it changes everything. Instead of spreading dead material that sits passively on the surface, living mulch uses actual plants that cover your soil while they're actively growing. These aren't your vegetables or flowers. They're specifically chosen ground covers that do one job extremely well: protect and improve your soil. Here's how it works. You plant fast-growing, low-maintenance species that quickly spread across bare soil. While they grow, their leaves shade the ground, keeping it cool and moist. Their roots reach into the earth, breaking up hard, compacted layers and creating channels for air and water to flow. When their growing season ends, these plants don't need to be removed and replaced like traditional mulch. Instead, they die back naturally and decompose right where they grew, feeding the very soil that supported them. It's a beautiful, self-sustaining cycle. As living mulch grows, it invites beneficial creatures into your garden. Earthworms move through the soil, creating tunnels that improve drainage. Beneficial insects arrive, attracted by the flowers and foliage. Microorganisms multiply in the rich environment, breaking down organic matter and releasing nutrients your vegetables can use. The result? Your soil doesn't just stay protected, it actually improves over time. It becomes darker, richer, and easier to work with. It holds moisture longer, so you water less. And it develops a natural resistance to weeds because there's simply no room for them to establish. Think of living mulch as a blanket that breathes. It adjusts to the seasons, responds to weather changes, and renews itself year after year. Once established, it requires almost no maintenance from you. You're not fighting nature anymore. You're cooperating with it. But here's the important part. Not every plant works as living mulch. Some grow too aggressively and become weeds themselves. Others compete too strongly with your vegetables for nutrients and water. Some attract pests or share diseases with food crops. That's why choosing the right species matters so much. After years of trial and error, gardeners around the world have identified 2 plants that excel at this job better than almost anything else. They grow quickly, cover completely, decompose cleanly, and improve soil dramatically. If you're enjoying this information, please take a second to hit the like button. It helps this video reach more gardeners who need this knowledge. And drop a comment below. I read every single one, and I'd love to hear about your own mulching experiences. Now let's meet these 2 remarkable plants.
Part 3. The first wonder plant, Phacelia tanacetifolia. Even the name sounds delicate and beautiful, and the plant lives up to it. At first glance, Phacelia looks like something that escaped from a wildflower meadow and decided to make your garden its home. It has soft, feathery leaves that give it a fern-like appearance. When it blooms, it produces clusters of lavender blue flowers that seem to shimmer and dance in the sunlight. But don't let its gentle appearance fool you. Underneath that beauty lies one of the most hard-working soil improvers you'll ever plant. Phacelia is often called bees' best friend, and for good reason. When those purple-blue flowers open, pollinators arrive in droves. Bees, butterflies, and beneficial insects can't resist it. If you grow tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, or squash, the increased pollinator activity alone can boost your harvest significantly. But the real magic happens below ground. Phacelia has a deep, aggressive root system that pushes down into hard soil like a natural plow. These roots break up compacted layers that prevent water and air from reaching deeper zones. They pull nutrients up from below, minerals and elements that have been locked away beneath the surface, making them available to shallower-rooted plants. When Phacelia decomposes, those nutrients return to the topsoil, right where your vegetables need them most. Above ground, Phacelia grows fast. Scatter the seeds, water gently, and within 10 days you'll see delicate green shoots pushing through the soil. Within a month, you'll have a lush, spreading carpet that shades the ground and locks in moisture. And here's what makes it perfect for home gardens. Phacelia is completely non-invasive. It doesn't spread aggressively like mint or creeping grasses. It doesn't share diseases with common tomatoes or potatoes. It simply grows, blooms, attracts pollinators, and then gracefully completes its cycle. If you let it go to seed naturally, it will self-sow for the next season, but not in an overwhelming way. Just enough to give you a head start without taking over your entire garden. When it's time to return Phacelia to the soil, timing matters. The best moment is right before the flowers fully open, when the plant is still tender and packed with nutrients. At this stage, it breaks down quickly and releases its stored energy back into the earth. Don't yank it out by the roots. That disturbs the soil structure you've been working to improve. Instead, simply cut it down at ground level using shears or a sharp hoe. Leave the roots in place. They'll decompose underground, creating channels and adding organic matter. Take the cut foliage and either leave it on the surface as a natural compost layer or use a rake to mix it lightly into the top few inches of soil. You don't need to dig deep. 6 centimeters is plenty. Keep it near the surface where oxygen-loving bacteria can break it down rapidly. Within 2 weeks, you'll notice the difference. The soil darkens, it becomes softer and more crumbly. It smells rich and earthy instead of dusty and lifeless. That's the sign that beneficial microorganisms are thriving, turning your cut Phacelia into pure soil fertility. And while Phacelia works its magic in one way, our second plant brings a completely different set of strengths.
Part 4. The second powerhouse. Buckwheat. Now let's talk about buckwheat. Phagopyrum esculentum if you want the scientific name. Despite what the name suggests, buckwheat isn't related to wheat at all. It's not a grain or a grass. It's actually a flowering plant and one of the fastest growing living mulches you can use in your garden. Speed is buckwheat's superpower. Most plants take their time establishing roots and growing foliage. Not buckwheat. It germinates within a week, sometimes even faster in warm soil. Within 30 days, it's already blooming with clusters of small white flowers that attract pollinators from all directions. In that short time frame, buckwheat creates a dense, thick canopy that smothers weeds better than almost any other plant. It grows so quickly and so completely that unwanted plants simply can't compete. They don't get the light they need, they don't get the space they need. They just disappear. This makes buckwheat especially valuable for rehabilitating neglected garden beds. Maybe you have a corner of your yard that's been overrun with weeds. Maybe you inherited a property where the soil hasn't been cared for in years. Buckwheat can turn that problem area into productive garden space in a single growing season. But its value goes far beyond weed control. As buckwheat grows and decomposes, it releases phosphorus, calcium, and trace minerals back into the soil. These are nutrients your vegetables crave, especially fruiting plants like tomatoes and peppers. Think of buckwheat as a natural mineral supplement that you're applying directly to your garden soil. It's particularly effective in poor or sandy soils. These types of soil typically struggle to hold nutrients and moisture. Buckwheat's wide-spreading root system creates a fine web just below the surface that helps with both water retention and aeration. The soil becomes more stable, more fertile, and easier to work with. When it's time to cycle buckwheat back into the soil, timing is crucial. The best moment is when the first flower buds appear, but before they fully open. At this stage, the plant holds the maximum amount of nutrients and enzymes. If you wait too long and let it become woody, it takes much longer to break down. Cut it down gently at ground level, just like you did with Phacelia.
You can leave the cut material on the surface as a natural compost blanket or mix it lightly into the top few inches of soil. Either way works beautifully. Within a couple of weeks, you'll see dramatic results. The soil becomes darker, moister, and more crumbly. It feels rich and alive when you run your hands through it. Buckwheat also brings another benefit that many gardeners overlook. Those sweet white flowers don't just attract pollinators, they also tend to discourage certain pests. The increased biodiversity creates natural balance in your garden. Beneficial insects arrive and help keep harmful ones in check. It's low maintenance, incredibly fast, and generous beyond measure. Whether you're a brand new gardener or someone who's been working the land for decades, buckwheat is one of those plants that rewards you almost immediately. No fancy fertilizers, no constant watering, just pure, simple, effective growth. And here's the beautiful secret. When you combine buckwheat with Phacelia, something truly remarkable happens.
Part 5. The perfect partnership. This is where everything comes together. Phacelia and buckwheat on their own are powerful, but when you grow them together in the same space, they form what I call a gardener's dream team. Each plant brings different strengths to the table, and those strengths complement each other perfectly. Phacelia grows tall and airy, with feathery foliage that shades the soil from above. Its roots drive deep, opening up compacted layers and pulling nutrients upward from below. Buckwheat, meanwhile, spreads quickly across the ground, filling in lower spaces and creating a dense living blanket that locks out weeds and locks in moisture. Together, they create a seamless green carpet that protects every inch of your garden bed. Nothing gets through. Not weeds, not excessive heat, not drying winds. The beauty of this partnership is balance. Buckwheat germinates fast and covers the ground almost immediately, giving your soil instant protection. Phacelia follows close behind, its deeper roots working below the surface to improve soil structure and nutrient availability. One plant builds structure, the other builds depth. It's nature's version of teamwork, each plant doing what it does best while complementing what the other provides. You can sow them in different ways, depending on your garden layout and personal preference. Some gardeners prefer to plant them in alternating rows between vegetables. This creates clear paths and makes it easy to see where each crop is growing. Others prefer to mix the seeds together in one container and scatter them evenly across the entire bed. This creates a more natural, meadow-like appearance and ensures complete coverage. Don't worry about getting it perfect. Nature doesn't plant in straight lines, and your living mulch doesn't need to either. The plants will fill in gaps and adjust to the space naturally. After scattering your seeds, water the area well. You want about 10 to 15 liters of water per square meter. Just enough to moisten the topsoil thoroughly without creating puddles or washing seeds away. Within a week, you'll start seeing the first signs of life. Tiny green shoots pushing through the surface, reaching toward the light. It's one of the most satisfying moments in gardening, watching potential become reality. As the weeks go by, your garden transforms. Fewer weeds appear, the soil stays cooler during hot days, your vegetables develop richer color and stronger growth. And you'll notice something else. You're not working as hard. Once established, this living mulch partnership takes care of itself. It doesn't need trimming, fertilizing, or constant watering. The plants grow together harmoniously, each doing its job quietly beneath and around your vegetables. When the time comes to return them to the soil, resist the urge to dig deep. Remember, beneficial microbes live in the top layer of soil where oxygen is plentiful. Instead, simply cut the plants down and mix their remains into the top 6 centimeters. That shallow layer is where the magic happens. Those microbes get right to work, turning fresh plant matter into humus, that dark, rich, nutrient-dense substance that every gardener dreams of. By mid-season, the transformation is complete. Softer soil that holds moisture longer, vegetables that look healthier and produce more abundantly. A garden that feels balanced and alive. That's what happens when you let nature do what it was always meant to do. Before we continue,
If you're getting value from this video, please share it with a friend who loves gardening. This information can change the way people approach their gardens, and spreading it helps more people discover these natural methods. Also, make sure you're subscribed to Hidden Gardening Secrets. We post new videos every week with practical, time-tested gardening wisdom. Now let's look at what's actually happening beneath the surface.
Part 6. The science that makes it work. You might be wondering what's really going on down there in the soil. It's not magic, though it might feel like it. It's biology, elegant, efficient, and perfectly designed. When you use living mulch and keep plant matter near the soil surface, you're feeding an entire underground ecosystem. This ecosystem is invisible to our eyes, but it's incredibly active and important. As roots decompose, they create tiny tunnels throughout the soil. These pathways allow air and water to move freely, reaching deeper layers that were previously compacted and lifeless. Oxygen flows through these channels and reaches beneficial microorganisms like bacillus, actinomycetes that give soil its earthy smell, and fungi like trichoderma that protect plant roots from disease. These microbes are the quiet heroes of healthy soil. They break down green plant matter rapidly in converting it into humus. Humus is that rich, dark substance that gives healthy soil its color and texture. It's packed with nutrients in forms that plants can easily absorb. But here's the crucial part. These beneficial microbes need oxygen to survive and work efficiently. If you bury your living mulch too deep, oxygen can't reach it. Instead, anaerobic bacteria take over, the kind that thrive without air. And that's when problems start. Anaerobic decomposition is slow, smelly, and inefficient. It can actually lock up nutrients instead of releasing them, making them unavailable to your plants. That's the opposite of what you want. This is why the old practice of deep tilling in organic matter often doesn't work as well as gardeners expect. You're burying it beyond where oxygen-loving microbes can reach it. The solution is simple. Keep it shallow. Mix your cut living mulch into just the top few inches of soil. 6 centimeters is perfect. At this depth, oxygen is abundant, beneficial microbes thrive, and decomposition happens quickly and cleanly. If you want to supercharge this process, you can use a natural microbial boost. Things like compost tea, diluted molasses water, or commercial microbial inoculants introduce extra beneficial bacteria that speed up decomposition and prevent nutrient tie-up. A simple ratio works well: 1 part microbial concentrate to 100 parts water. Spray it evenly over your cut living mulch, and within a few days, you'll notice the difference. The surface darkens, the smell turns pleasantly earthy, the texture softens as microbes multiply and get to work. This process doesn't just feed your soil for one season, it builds fertility that compounds over time. Every time you grow living mulch and return it to the earth, you're layering more organic matter into the system. It's like compound interest for your soil. The more you invest now, the richer it becomes in the future. Nature's design is beautifully efficient. It doesn't waste anything, it doesn't hurry, and it never stops working, even while you rest.
Part 7. Real results from real gardens. Within just 1 growing season, gardeners who try Phacelia and buckwheat as living mulch report changes that sound almost unbelievable until you experience them yourself. The soil transforms dramatically. It becomes darker, softer, and easier to work with. When you run your hand through it, it crumbles gently instead of clumping into hard chunks. You can almost feel the life inside it. Tiny creatures moving, microbes working, roots expanding. Water behaves differently too. Instead of running off the surface or pooling in low spots, it sinks in easily and stays longer. Many gardeners find they need to water only half as often as before. The soil acts like a sponge, holding moisture where plants can access it. Weeds become increasingly rare. The thick canopy of living mulch doesn't give them space to establish. The few that do appear are easy to pull because the soil is so loose and friable. Instead of spending hours bent over fighting stubborn weeds, you spend that time enjoying your garden. But perhaps the most visible change is in the vegetables themselves. Gardeners consistently notice stronger root systems, sturdier stems, and deeper green leaves. Plants grow faster and bear more fruit. Tomatoes hang heavy on the vine. Peppers develop thicker walls. Beans produce longer pods over extended periods. The increased pollinator activity makes a real difference too. Those Phacelia and buckwheat flowers attract bees and butterflies in numbers you might not have seen before. Better pollination means better fruit set and higher yields. Even pest problems tend to decrease. When your garden ecosystem is balanced with diverse plants, beneficial insects, and healthy soil, harmful pests don't establish as easily. Ladybugs arrive to control aphids. Ground beetles hunt for slugs. The system regulates itself. But beyond all these practical benefits, there's something else that changes. Something harder to measure, but perhaps more important. Your relationship with gardening shifts. There's a quiet satisfaction that comes from knowing your garden is thriving because you've learned to work with nature rather than against it. You spend less time sweating over exhausting chores and more time simply being present, noticing colors, listening to sounds, watching life unfold. For those of us with aging bodies, this matters deeply. Our backs might not have the strength they once did. Our knees might protest when we bend too long, but our wisdom is grown, and living mulch allows us to use that wisdom to garden smarter, not harder. It's about building something sustainable, something that will outlast our own hands, something that improves year after year instead of requiring constant intervention. When people ask me if this method truly works, I always tell them the same thing. Don't just take my word for it, scatter a few seeds and watch what happens. Because once you do, you'll understand the difference, not in weeks or months, but in the very way your garden feels under your feet. It's alive. It's self-renewing. It's nature doing what nature does best. Quietly, beautifully, perfectly.
Part 8. My personal journey with living mulch. I remember the spring when everything changed for me. My knees were aching more than usual that year. The thought of pushing heavy wheelbarrows across my yard felt overwhelming. I had spent decades spreading bark mulch, wood chips, and straw, only to watch them dry out, blow away, or rot too quickly. I wasn't tired of gardening itself. I was tired of fighting the same battles year after year. One morning, while browsing through an old farming journal, I came across a short article about using Phacelia and buckwheat as living mulch. The concept seemed almost too simple. Plant seeds instead of buying bags, let them grow and then return them to the soil. It sounded like something my grandmother might have done, back when people gardened by common sense instead of marketing trends. I decided to try it on a small scale. Just one raised bed, nothing fancy. I cleared away old mulch and scattered a mix of Phacelia and buckwheat seeds across the surface. I watered gently, then waited. 10 days later, tiny green shoots appeared. They looked fragile at first, delicate stems reaching toward the sun. I wondered if they'd survive. But within a month, that small bed was covered in a soft, swaying carpet of green. The feathery Phacelia leaves mixed beautifully with the broader buckwheat foliage. It looked like a miniature meadow right there in my backyard. Then the bees came. Dozens of them at first, then hundreds. The air hummed with activity. Butterflies visited daily. I found myself spending more time just watching the life happening in that one small bed. And something else happened that I didn't expect. I stopped pulling weeds. Not because I was lazy, but because there weren't any. The living mulch had crowded them out completely. The soil stayed moist even during hot, dry stretches. When I dug my fingers into it, I felt how soft and crumbly it had become. It was cool to the touch and smelled rich, like forest floor. By the end of that season, the vegetables in that bed looked better than anything else in my garden. Tomatoes were fuller and sweeter.
Lettuce stayed tender longer. Bean plants produced abundantly right up until frost. I used no chemical fertilizers, no store-bought mulch, just two humble plants doing what nature designed them to do. When autumn arrived, I cut everything down and let it rest over winter. The decomposed plant matter formed a dark, fluffy layer over the soil, like chocolate cake, rich and inviting. The next spring, I expanded the method to my entire garden, and I haven't gone back since. Every season now, I simply scatter a handful of seeds, water lightly, and let nature handle the rest. The soil improves year after year. It's darker, richer, and more alive than ever before. It feels like having an invisible partner working beside me, steady, reliable, and tireless. That's the beauty of this approach. It's simple, affordable, and kind to both you and the earth. Once you experience it for yourself, you'll never look at gardening the same way again. And that's
Part 9. How to get started in your own garden. If you're ready to try this, and I genuinely hope you are, here's exactly how to begin, even if you've never done anything like this before. Start by choosing your space. It can be a vegetable bed, a flower patch, or even an unused corner of your yard. The size doesn't matter. Even a small area will show you how effective this method is. Clear away any large weeds or debris, but don't dig deep. You want to preserve your existing soil structure. Just remove obvious obstacles and rake the surface smooth. Next, get your seeds. You can find both Phacelia and buckwheat from seed suppliers online or at garden centers that carry cover crop seeds. They're inexpensive, usually just a few dollars per packet. Mix equal parts of both seeds in a small bucket. If you'd like, add a few handfuls of dry compost or sand to help distribute them more evenly. This makes scattering easier, especially in larger areas. Now walk through your prepared space and scatter the seed mixture by hand. Use a gentle, sweeping motion, letting seeds fall naturally. Don't worry about perfect spacing or even coverage. Nature doesn't plant in rows, and your seeds don't need to be precise either. Once seeds are down, water gently. Think of it as creating a soft rain, not a heavy storm. You don't want to wash seeds away or create puddles. Just moisten the top layer of soil thoroughly. In about a week, you'll see sprouts emerging. Within a month, your living mulch will begin forming that lush green cover we talked about. And here's the truly wonderful part. You don't need to maintain it. No pruning, no trimming, no fertilizing. Just let it grow. As it matures, it will protect your soil, feed your plants, and keep weeds from invading. When it's time to prepare for your next crop or season, simply cut the plants down at their base. You can leave the cuttings on top of the soil as a natural compost layer, or lightly mix them into the upper few inches. Either approach works beautifully, though mixing them in speeds up decomposition. For those gardening in raised beds or containers, this method works just as well. In fact, it's particularly effective in small spaces because the plant's roots don't compete heavily with your vegetables. They complement them. If you live in a hot climate, you'll appreciate how these plants keep soil cooler and retain moisture longer. And if your summers are dry, the improved soil structure helps everything stay hydrated with less frequent watering. One timing tip. Plant your living mulch in early spring or late summer, when temperatures are moderate and rain is more common. This helps seeds establish quickly without much effort from you. That's it. That's the whole process. Simple, straightforward, and incredibly effective.
Part 10. Common mistakes to avoid. Even though this method is wonderfully forgiving, there are a few common mistakes to watch out for, especially when you're trying it for the first time. First, avoid sowing your living mulch too close to heavy feeding plants like corn, pumpkins, or melons during their early growth stages. These big vegetables can overshadow young seedlings and slow their establishment. Give your living mulch a little space to get started first. Once it's rooted and growing, it coexists peacefully with almost anything. Second, don't overwater. It's tempting to think more water means faster growth, but these plants prefer moderate moisture. Once they've sprouted and developed their first true leaves, they can handle brief dry periods quite well. Overwatering can lead to weak stems and slower decomposition later on. Third, and this is important, don't dig your cut mulch too deep into the soil. I know it's tempting to till it under like you would with compost, but that actually slows down the natural breakdown process. It can even trap nutrients where your plants can't reach them. Just mix the material lightly into the top layer. The oxygen there helps microbes work efficiently. Fourth, be patient. The first time you try this, you might look at your garden after a few days and think, this doesn't seem like much yet. That's normal. Nature doesn't rush, and the changes are subtle at first. But give it a few weeks. One day you'll step outside and suddenly realize your soil has completely transformed. It's softer, darker, more alive than ever before. Remember, this isn't a quick fix. It's a living system that improves with time. Every season, your garden becomes more self-sufficient. The longer you keep at it, the less you'll need to do. If you make a small mistake, don't worry. The earth is forgiving and knows how to heal itself. The key is to observe, adjust, and let the garden guide you. That's what I love most about this method. It takes away the pressure to be perfect. Instead, it invites you to become a partner with nature, to learn from it, to work with it, and to enjoy the peace that comes when you stop forcing things and start trusting the process.
Part 11. The deeper meaning. Once you begin gardening this way, something profound happens. You start to notice the quiet balance of nature again, the way every leaf, every root, and every raindrop plays its part in a larger story. Living mulch doesn't just save your back or your budget. It changes the way you relate to your garden. You realize you're not forcing things to grow anymore. You're cooperating with a system that knows exactly what to do. You're becoming part of something much bigger than yourself. When you walk through your garden early in the morning, you'll hear the hum of bees around those purple Phacelia blooms. You'll see butterflies resting on white buckwheat flowers. You'll notice earthworms returning to the surface after a night of gentle rain. You'll touch the soil and feel its softness, not dry and lifeless, but warm and spongy, like the forest floor. And that's when you understand. Your garden is no longer just a collection of plants. It's a community, a breathing, connected world that supports itself. It's the same wisdom that has kept natural ecosystems thriving for thousands of years. Every time you scatter those seeds, you're rebuilding a small piece of that natural harmony in your own backyard. For those of us who are older, this lesson feels especially meaningful, because as we age, we understand what patience really means. We've learned that the most beautiful things take time, care, and gentleness. And that's exactly what this approach teaches. The best gardening doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing less and doing it with intention. When you garden this way, the work becomes easier, but the joy grows deeper. The air feels fresher, the colors look brighter, and there's a calm that settles in when you know your garden is alive, not because of exhausting effort, but because of balance. That, to me, is the heart of sustainable gardening, letting nature lead and following her rhythm with gratitude.
Living mulch is one of the most effective, affordable, and sustainable gardening strategies you can adopt, and with the right timing, it can transform your soil year-round. Spring is the best time to start. Once temperatures reach above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, you can scatter seeds like Phacelia or buckwheat to give them a full growing season. These plants sprout quickly in warm, moist soil and form a lush green carpet that suppresses weeds and improves soil health. Summer and early fall also work well if you can keep the soil moist during germination. In warmer regions, planting 6 to 8 weeks before the first frost lets the plants bloom and naturally die back, enriching the soil for spring. Many gardeners rotate crops, planting living mulch in early spring, vegetables in summer, and another round of living mulch in late summer to keep soil covered and nourished throughout the year. Timing is key. Cut down living mulch 2 to 3 weeks before planting vegetables so the decomposing material doesn't tie up nitrogen. For perennials or fruit trees, let living mulch reseed naturally, trimming occasionally to prevent crowding. Common concerns are easy to manage. Living mulch won't compete with vegetables if timed correctly. Grow it before or after main crops, or cut it early to return nutrients to the soil. Phacelia and buckwheat are non-invasive and easy to control. Just cut before they set seed. They thrive even in poor soil, improving structure and fertility over time. Buckwheat prefers well-drained soil, so gardeners with clay should improve drainage first. You can even use living mulch in containers. Simply scatter seeds around established plants and cut them down when ready. Pest and disease problems are rare because these plants attract beneficial insects and increase biodiversity. Once you're comfortable with Phacelia and buckwheat, you can explore other species. Crimson clover adds nitrogen and survives cooler weather. Field peas improve soil in cold seasons. Mustard greens suppress soil diseases, and annual ryegrass prevents erosion. Still, it's best to master the basics before experimenting. Gardening is a continuous learning process where curiosity and observation yield the best results. Financially, living mulch is a game changer. Traditional mulch can cost hundreds of dollars each year, while a small packet of seeds costs less than $20 and can cover 1,000 square feet. Many plants self-seed, meaning they return year after year with minimal cost. Living mulch also reduces water needs, fertilizer costs, and labor. For seniors or anyone on a budget, it's an empowering, low-cost solution that supports sustainable gardening. More than just a gardening method, living mulch helps heal the planet. It builds carbon-rich soil, protects biodiversity, and teaches future generations about patience and harmony with nature. As more gardeners rediscover these techniques, a global movement is growing, sharing experiences, advice, and encouragement online and in communities. Together, these gardeners are proving that abundance comes from working with nature, not against it. So scatter your seeds, water gently, and watch as nature transforms your soil and spirit. Your garden is waiting, and with living mulch, you're not just growing plants, you're growing the future.